Today we're going to look at the way that Duke played Kansas last week, first game of the season, the way they played the post players, and the effect that it had on the game. I know a lot of coaches have varying strategies for how they defend the post. Some coaches are strictly front. They have smaller teams. Some coaches choose to play behind. Usually you'll see three-quarter, I would say on average for college players. But teams have different strategies for getting the ball out of post players' hands. And Kansas obviously has Udoka Azubuike, who is one of the more dominant back-to-the-basket post players in college basketball. Coach K knew that. So to handle that and to manage that throughout this game, Duke did a very good job of sending post-to-post double teams the entire game and fronting the post outside of Vernon Carey. Carey seemed to be the only one who was allowed to three-quarter or play behind. Everyone else was fronting. So here we're going to take a look at how that went down. So this is now in the second half. First half, they had already been doing doubles. So I want to kind of look at the adjustments that were made, but also, the way that Duke kind of stayed within their game plan. So here we're going to see pick and roll to get David McCormack up here, and now we got one-on-one in the post. Like I said, Vernon Carey, about 270, probably the only guy I think Coach K gave the green light to play behind in three-quarters with. Here he's going to get it, but look at Matt Hurt right here. This is what made this double team so effective throughout the game. This is what forced Kansas into 25-plus turnovers, is these post players who are not great passers. They're not facing, there's no Nikola Jokic's on Kansas. Azubuike is not great handling these type of double teams. So the double comes, exactly what you want. Get the ball out of his hands. And now they get the pass down low. McCormack goes up and he ends up finishing. So that does open up a lot, as we're going to see throughout this analysis, throughout these clips in the second half. It opens up a lot of areas to attack, and Kansas did a much better job in the second half adjusting to that and didn't have as many reckless turnovers as they had in the first half. But there was a lot of different actions that they used to get the ball in the post. High pick and roll was a big one. This type of play, McCormack couldn't get it. Garrett got it in. But here we go again. Matt Hurt's leaving. The reason why it's so important that you go big to big in this situation is because Hurt is guarding David McCormack, who took a number of mid-range shots in this game, but that's not really on the scouting report. He has not proven at this point that that's a shot you're afraid of. So you send a post-to-post double team and force Azubuike, who, as I said, is not a great passer, to make this pass. So for post players watching this, if you're Azubuike, you have to be able to have that vision to not just see McCormack as a cutter potentially here, but to know and understand spacing that your team has. And I know at halftime, Coach Self drew up, these type of plays and these type of looks and how to adjust to them. And you see Devon Dotson, who, going to be a 35 to 38% three-point shooter, can knock these down. He's going to be wide open with Cassius Stanley. Right, you see Stanley comes and takes this, and Devon Dotson is wide open, even after we see Azubuike back out. So if you're Azubuike, and at this point McCormack's basically pinning Cassius Stanley, that's a wide open three, and that's a pass that needs to be made. What ends up happening is they get it back out to the perimeter, and Duke won that 10 or so seconds of the shot clock. And now we come with a high pick and roll. He's going to try to attack. 10 seconds left on the shot clock. Another high pick and roll. Every high pick and roll with Azubuike, the mindset had to be and was, he's rolling hard every time. I don't know if I've seen Udoka Azubuike hit a jump shot at any point. So Duke was always setting this, kind of deeper hedge, so Azubuike couldn't get a quick roll here. Devon Dotson didn't pull up a bunch. He attacked a couple times, as we'll see, but he was more looking for this roll guy. So Vernon Carey does an excellent job, and now McCormack comes up, and now Carey's actually fronting here because of the way he ended up. He's fronting, and there's 5 seconds left. So there's not enough time to get it into the post. Instead, he drives. Not a wide open layup, but, that's a more difficult shot than an Azubuike dunk at the rim. But it wasn't all, domination from Duke with guarding the post. There was situations where Kansas was able to exploit it. And like I said at the beginning of this, whenever you're facing post-to-post double teams, the best post-to-post double team I've seen in college basketball is the one Virginia runs, and especially 3 or 4 years ago when they had Isaiah Wilkins in there with Brogdon on that team, and they could just send the hardest post-to-post double teams. They did it a lot against Julio Okafor's Duke team, and that was the ACC conference that year that had a ton of good post players, and that was the best post-to-post double team I've seen. Duke did a good job today, but right now we're going to see 4-cross look, enter it to the high post, and they're going to exploit all this focus on the bigs. That's a wide open dunk for Ochai Agbaji. Really nice pass from Azubuike. This is obviously a set that they drew up specifically to get this backdoor pass. They end up running it later, as we'll see later in this video. They run the exact same set later. But this is defensively where I think, as a freshman, Vernon Carey, Matt Hurt, know your personnel in terms of who you're guarding. Some coaches like to pressure, with the bigs to have high hands here to make sure he can't see these type of passes. But even if you're Matt Hurt, if you back off here, that's not a threat of David McCormack making that shot. What you can't have is Vernon Carey comes up to defend Azubuike, and now we have probably the best wing athlete on Kansas streaking down for a dunk. Now, Goldwire's got to do a little bit better job, but that's got to be Vernon Carey and Matt Hurt, really. Because as soon as he gets it here, Matt Hurt should already be dropping down a little bit, maybe not all the way underneath the rim, but a little bit to where if that pass happens, he's at least forcing the second pass to McCormack, not just giving up wide open dunk. This was the start of a run for them. Ochai kind of got going after this, but, Duke did a better job later in the game, as we'll see, defending the same play. Any good coach is going to be looking to make adjustments in game, especially when it comes to double teaming, whether that be a specialty zone or, a box and one, double teams, having extra pressure. Adjustments have to be made. And Coach Self made clearly good adjustments here for Azubuike in the second half, as he wasn't nearly as flustered as he was in the first. Here we're going to see a fake dribble handoff, and then Marcus Garrett, is going to get that, enter it into Azubuike, and we're going to have the exact same look we had at the beginning of this analysis at the beginning of the half, where Azubuike did not see Devon Dotson here. So now we're going to see the difference in defense and the difference in Azubuike's vision. Before, when he was on this side, he wasn't even really looking weak side for anything. Here, double team comes. Instead of backing out, taking a retreat dribble immediately, Dotson's open again. But when you look at right here, we're going to see Jones is anticipating that. He starts streaking out, and now who's wide open? The other big. He gets it in, and that's a finish. That's kind of the reads that Azubuike needs to make as the year goes on. And as a big man, those are the reads that you have to be able to make, because the double's coming. It's not a surprise at this point in the game. 16:51 left in the second half. They've been playing this way for a while. Matt Hurts comes, again, big to big double. And Trey Jones is either going to have to take away McCormack or he's going to have to take away Dotson. He thinks he reads Azubuike's eyes, jumps out, and that's all the time Azubuike needs. Makes a nice baseline pass, and they get a layup. And, even on that one, Azubuike had to work for everything. He had to work for his assists. He had to work for every point. Everything he had to work for. When you're dealing with that as a post player, it can be frustrating. There can be times where you feel like at that point, maybe it's just not your day. A lot of big guys will sulk in those type of situations thinking, why can't my teammates make shots out of this double team? Why can't I get open? If you're a big and you're getting double team like that every time, one way to get easy points is to run the floor. And we're going to see right here, they get a rebound, Hurts down, they have numbers. Look at Azubuike at the front of the pack. That's an easy catch and lob, and that's how you run the floor. This is a perfect example of how you get easy points. If you're a big guy, get the ball off the glass, run the floor, you're going to get points regardless of if plays are run for you. Azubuike had plays run for him the whole game, but nothing was easy. Right now he's got a guard down there. It's an easy lob because he ran the floor. Now, they had, a couple different lineup changes, kind of combinations with Azubuike. When Vernon Carey was on him, like I said, to me that was a great matchup because both of them are really big, but Vernon Carey had the foot speed and the footwork to make sure that he wasn't getting beat on quick moves by Azubuike, and he had help coming. Now, Javin DeLaurier is a lot slimmer than Carey, and they really went at him when he was in the game. So here we're going to see a ball screen. Again, they stay pretty deep on this. When you have one of the best on-ball defenders in Tre Jones, you're not as concerned about Dotson turning the corner every time. Here they do a good job. Tre Jones gets back, and then they hit the roll guy. The rise guy. So the rise guy here is going to get the ball, and then the best way to beat fronting is to go high-low. So here we're going to see McCormack, if we back this up a little bit, as soon as we see the rise guy gets the ball, Agbaji's going to get it on the wing after this pick and roll. So we're going to see he's going to come up, and then watch Agbaji up here. He's going to rise up to take his guy away from an easy double team. As soon as Agbaji gets the ball, here comes McCormack. The reason you do this against a front, which is what Duke was trying to do for a good portion of this game, is if you can get the ball here as a post and you drag your guy up with you, there's nobody to help over here. That's an easy lob, that's an easy dunk, layup, whatever, depending on the player you have down here. So McCormack's going to come up. And now I talked about earlier, if it was me, I feel like I would rather have these bigs sagging off. Right here, we're going to see Jack White's going to use his length and take away passing angles by getting up tighter with McCormack. And by doing that, he can't get this easy pass, and now DeLaurier is going to have time to work his way around. Now he's back to where he needs to be. Jack White's now one-on-one with McCormack. McCormack's not really comfortable in that space. And then we're going to see a really nice roll down by Alex O'Connell. And then at this point, they need to be defensively. Then a great job of finishing that with a rebound. That was a great defensive possession. Multiple guys rotating. Jack White being high with the ball to make sure there wasn't an easy passing lane. And then DeLaurier doing a good job getting back in the play and taking away Azubuike from the offensive glass. So, like I said, we've seen a lot of 4 cross sets for Kansas. They ran a lot of these, especially in the second half, to either get Devon Dotson going downhill or, like we saw earlier with the backdoor, there's kind of a lot of options you can do in a 4 cross set. Kansas is generally going to make those decisions off of the post players, though. So here, we're going to see Dotson's going to come off. Like I said, we always know Azubuike is rolling. Got Tre Jones here. You don't need to get too high in the hedge. Pass again. Now you got a high-low. This is what I was talking about on the last possession and why Jack White's active hands were important, but also offensively why you send a guy to the high post for a high-low. Look who's over here for Azubuike. Cassius Stanley's out here on Agbaji, who had hit a couple, and then we're going to have O'Connell out here guarding another shooter. Azubuike just used his size. Now he gets to go to the free throw line. That's why fronting is difficult. It's not an easy thing to do, to work around. It takes constant effort to be a good fronting team, to be a good fronting post player, because you can't get caught slipping. And as help side defenders, you have to always be aware of where your guys are at. So like I said earlier, Vernon Carey was always a guy who was kind of 3/4 or playing behind Azubuike. Here he doesn't really have a choice because of the way that Azubuike swings around. Now when you get this pass to the high post, to the top of the key, there is absolutely no help on this side. And a really good job over here to slide up, but there's nothing Carey can do now but hope McCormack can't make that pass. And Jack White tried to put pressure on the ball. Wasn't enough. And at this point, that's the best you can do for Carey. Foul a guy who's a bad free throw shooter and just hope for the best at that point. But it was a lot of, generally speaking, Vernon Carey did a good job this game, I would say defensively. That's not something I would even consider like a plus skill for Vernon Carey specifically, but he competed this whole game, and as a unit, Duke did a very good job on him. But you're not always going to be able to have Vernon Carey on him. So here we see in transition, offensive rebound for McCormack, and now it's a scramble. In this situation, you obviously want to get to the point where Vernon Carey's back on Azubuike. Problem here is they're going to get a little bit of action, and they're going to end up with O'Connell on David McCormack. So that's a huge size difference. And Kansas does a good job of recognizing it. And McCormack's just going to slip that and try to get to the rim. Now we got another switch. So after he came down, we're going to see Jack White's going to be out on Agbaji, and now we're going to have Alex O'Connell still trying to front David McCormack and really pay attention to what Vernon Carey does defensively, because that really makes this play successful for Duke and takes away what should be an easy scoring opportunity for Kansas. O'Connell fights around probably 170, maybe 175, soaking wet. He's fighting around to get in front of David McCormack, who's got at least 50, 60 pounds on him. And Vernon Carey is making sure this lob pass can't get in. So look at that. Now they have to go high post. Again, if you get the ball to the high post here and they go high-low, that's an easy dunk for McCormack if they can get it in. They get it in there, and Azubuike doesn't even look down. So this play is more on Azubuike than it is on McCormack. McCormack did exactly what he's supposed to do. Azubuike goes away, and O'Connell is still on the back of McCormack. If you're Kansas and you're Kansas's guards, there's no reason why someone shouldn't have been losing their mind trying to figure out why no one has given the ball to McCormack yet. And there's only 4 seconds left on the shot clock. So at this point, because Azubuike didn't enter it, now Marcus Garrett's got to go try to make something happen at the rim. And he's not going to get it in time. This is all goes off of extra effort from Alex O'Connell, because he tried to get Jack White to switch back. Jack White didn't want to leave the corner. Agbaji was over there. Like I said, he had been shooting the ball well. Alex O'Connell's in a position that he's probably not in very often. So sometimes you'll hear guards complain when they get switched on the bigs, or they'll just basically give up, and say, well, I don't know how to guard in the post. I don't defend in the post. They're too big for me. It doesn't matter how big you are. You can work to make life as difficult as possible on anybody in the post. And fronting as a smaller guy is the best way to do that, because you're forcing, number one, you can take away the legs of the offensive player. Number two, it's an uncomfortable space to be in as a post when you have a guy fronting, because now you're relying on your guards to be able to throw a good lob pass, and now you're probably going to have to catch and finish over some help. Like I said, Azubuike's got to do a better job of getting that in there, but Duke won this possession again. Even with the cross switch and transition, they were able to get the stop because they were where they're supposed to be on the front, and they executed that game plan. So remember earlier I was talking about that backdoor play, and they run that 4 cross set. So here we're going to see really multiple things that go on before they even get into that. We're going to see just basic floppy action to get into this same exact play. So this is nothing more than a mask. This is nothing more than false motion to get into the 4 cross. So just a box set to get right into that 4 cross backdoor set. So they're just going to do a floppy action. Both guys are going to come off down screens. Really basic to start. And then we're going to end up right where we were. And Marcus Garrett is already getting ready for this back cut. So let's see how Duke defends it this time, because the first time Agbaji got a wide open dunk off this. So he might have been open for a split second, but Trey Jones much more active. And now they got to kick the ball back out. The finish to this play is actually very difficult to defend. And we'll go back and show you why. Because especially if you know that the backdoor is coming. As soon as the ball's entered here, We're going to see Delorier does a decent job keeping his hands up, and Trey Jones, like I said, phenomenal defender. Him and Ashton Hagen's 1 and 2 in the country. They're going to take that away. The reason why this is so difficult to guard for Cassius Stanley is because he's essentially going to have to beat Azubuike, and he's going to have to get around his own guy, because this is going to be such a quick down screen on Agbaji that Delorier is not going to be able to get up based on where he's at. He's not going to be able to show here. Stanley's just going to have to try to sprint with Agbaji. Probably best to get on his outside hip and follow him around that way. But, you know, they left him space, which this looked like it was supposed to be an elevator screen. If we go back, when you look at it, it looks like it was set up to be an elevator screen where at the end Agbaji kind of comes up the middle and they kind of pin and shut the doors to screen Stanley. It's not really what ends up happening. He comes up on the outside, and now we got 10 seconds and we're going to see another post up. So, like I said, I don't think they wanted to be on the back of Azubuike for the most part. I think they wanted at minimum 3/4 or the front. Here he's going to get it. O'Connell comes now. So usually we did post to post. Usually it was, so here I think this is Wendell Moore here. Usually it would be him going down, but because his guy made the pass, they just send Matt Hurt down, who, again, long, athletic, and he's going to get the switchback in McCormick. Now, again, Azubuike is going to get it right back in the post. Here comes Matt Hurt again. Stanley right here has really only one option. That option is you take away this dunk. Because Agbaji, he might be open, possibly, but no time and score. 3 seconds left on the shot clock. I'm going to guess the pass to Agbaji is not going to be nearly as likely as this dump off from McCormick. Great double team. And then he actually kicks it out to Dotson. Doesn't seem like Azubuike knew the time left on the clock. Turnover for Duke. Big stop, 56-55 right now. You know, it's effort plays like that defensively that are exciting to watch as a basketball fan, and obviously for coaches that's ideal when you see your players execute a game plan like that. So here we got 56-55 still. This was the next possession for Kansas. They get it. Again, Delorier was generally fronting this game. Knowing that, you have to know if you're Matt Hurt right now that your guy's in trouble, because Azubuike here is going to basically pin him and call for the ball, and we don't see any help over the top. He's just going to get it, and now he's going to get a dunk and a foul. That was what Coach K was worried about from the jump in this game, is letting passes like this happen. Your post players get in foul trouble. Matt Hurt's very valuable for Duke, does a lot of things for them. Not in the right spot, so a freshman mistake, you compound it by fouling. Where he needed to be, based on personnel, we have McCormack out here. You really don't even need to be out there with him on this play at all. If you watch where Matt Hurt is, okay, when he gets the ball in the corner and Azubuike starts to post up, there was no reason for Matt Hurt to be all the way out there on the perimeter. If he's in regular help side positioning anyway, he probably could be lower as is, because that's not a threat out there. When the ball goes to the corner, he's not even anywhere to be found, so much to where Azubuike can catch, come down, and then go back up again for that dunk. So at this point, that's going to make it 57-56, and Duke wasn't in a position to be making a lot more mistakes. So credit to Kansas for executing on that play, but you know, when you're fronting, you have to always be in tune as a team. Can't just be the post players. It's got to be everybody on the team has to be ready to defend. You know, and they did a good job. Duke did. Got it 59-59. But here we're just going to see a straight blow-by. A straight blow-by into a layup. And I know this video is generally talking about post defense, guarding on the interior, and, you know, doubles, how to rotate off of them. But this is, as a post player, this is another thing that you have to be able to understand in this type of game. So yes, the whole game, You've been worried about Azubuike posting you up on the block. So the thought of him at the foul line is almost like a defensive break for a young freshman, for, really any young post player. Probably saw Azubuike up here and thought, well, this possession's not for me. And at the end, he's going to come around, and that's a late rotation. You might say, well, he contested the shot, but look at where he could have been, and look at where he actually, ended up being on this drive. So this was nothing more than a fake slip out of a ball screen, guard to guard. Communication here wasn't great. Trey Jones probably heard screen, no screen came, and O'Connell basically just left. Marcus Garrett isn't a great shooter, so he probably could have given a little more help here. But if you're Vernon Carey, and Matt Hurt's basically already on the help where he needs to be, Vernon Carey should be right here waiting for Devon Dotson to come meet him. He should already be standing here to the point where Devon Dotson's only option is to shoot a floater from the third hash or to try to throw a dump off or lob pass to Azubuike, which Matt Hurt has covered because McCormack's in Steph Curry range over here. So instead, Vernon Carey's going to wait until he gets at the rim. Devon Dotson is too physical of a finisher. He's too good of an athlete for you to wait until he's at the rim. Only thing that can happen when you try to contest that way is you foul, give up the layup, or you give up an and one. And, Vernon Carey, he's going to learn those things as this year goes on, as he gets on to the NBA. But you can't let a guard go downhill full speed at you regardless, because there's going to be guys more talented than Devon Dotson in the NBA who are going to be finishing that on top of Vernon Carey as opposed to around him. So at this point, it was really, this game was back and forth for a while, despite Kansas turning the ball over all the time, mainly because of these post-double actions. But at this point, it was 62-61, and Duke was really focusing in on getting some stops. Very important possession here. So they're going to get a handoff, and they're actually going to get into their motion, which they didn't get into a bunch. A lot of what they did this game was kind of predicated around getting the ball into Azubuike and playing off of him, or getting it into D'Souza or McCormack, whoever was in the game at the time. Here they're going to have a handoff for Garrett. He's going to come off a ball screen. Cassius Stanley can easily go under that. No problem there. They're going to kick it out, and then they're going to look at the situation. Devon Dotson does a good job here saying, all right, where do I want to go? So he brings it out, and he wants Azubuike coming out to set the screen, obviously the best role guy they have on the court right now. Now, what I want to look at right here is the defensive rotations and the help that comes from the bigs off of this post. Because O'Connell you don't really want to leave the corner here. Agbaji's out there. Garrett's not a great shooter, so Stanley can probably be a little bit more, at the elbow. But the screen's going to come, not looking to turn the corner here. This is set up by Devon Dotson. Again, this is a heady play as a point guard. Originally, McCormack was going to come, or he was going to isolate. He brings up Azubuike, the best roller, to kind of get Vernon Carey to either be lazy and allow this drive, or to come over after he just gave up the layup that we saw in the last clip. And if he comes over, that's a lob pass. Watch Jack White here on the weak side. Again, guarding a non-shooter over there. He tries to make that skip. Jack White gets a hand on it. You might think that's not a difficult play to make. To an extent, you're right, but this is why it's important. Because as a point guard, you're making pick and roll reads. Your read as a point guard at this very moment is, number one, can I get downhill? Help. Getting downhill is probably not going to be an option unless he wants to try to split this here. Is a roll guy going to be open? That's a two-pointed question, because if this is a more agile, maybe a more skilled big, you can give him that early bounce pass here for the early roll to attack. That's not Azubuike. He's a catch and finish guy, not a guy you want to catch and take a dribble and try to Euro step around Jack White or anything like that. So the read is going to be, is he going to be open on the deep roll? Jack White is already here, so that next read as a point guard is, all right, where's my guy going to be then? Because if Jack White's here and this is a shooter and he slides up, that's a wide open three. Dotson so his read is not necessarily wrong. It's just that the personnel is not where it needs to be. McCormack is not a guy to be taking that shot, so I would rather see Dotson keep it in attack. I would almost rather see Dotson come off this pick and roll. You know, you got about 12 seconds or so left. Come off this pick and roll, and then see what I can get in this area. See if I can maybe take a dribble and then cross over and see what I can get around this elbow, and then see if Azubuike is going to be open. Because my guess is O'Connell is not going to slide over, and if Dotson gets to this point, this is a tougher decision for Jack White. Right here, that skip pass is really the only pass he can make once he picks up the ball. And Jack White does a good job of getting a hand on it. And the last clip I want to look at, again, I've been talking heavily about post doubles, heavily about, post, defending, different ways to guard in the post. I want to look at one last pick and roll rotation. And this was basically the game-winning stop because it was just free throws after this. Right now at this point, if Kansas makes a shot, momentum changes just different. It's a one-point game. Obviously, you're going back and forth. We're going to see another high ball screen. Azubuike again. They've been going to this the last 2 minutes. Dotson's coming off hard. He knows Jack White is a guy he can beat one-on-one. He's coming off this saying, I'm going to get to the rack, and you're going to have to stop me here. He does get stopped. And then he makes a good pass to McCormack, and now McCormack's got to look up and say, what can I do? And this is where having a senior leader like Jack White, having a guy who's been through games like this actually matters, because he knew to sprint to take away this lob. That's just a great rotation by a veteran player. Jack White struggled to shoot the ball last season. By the end of the season, it looked like he had lost his confidence. Hasn't been overly, efficient as a shooter this year either. But these are plays that'll get you on the court, regardless of the level of basketball you play. If you are able to have the IQ to make these type of decisions defensively, you're going to be able to find your way in the court. So 2 things here for Jack White. This is an excellent defensive possession for him in a great way to seal the game. Dotson is quick enough to beat him, like I said. He stops him, makes him pick it up, and makes sure that he can't throw that pass to Azubuike, so he has to go to McCormack. Now look at the sprint to take this pass away, because this could be a lob for McCormack. We're going to see Carey do a decent job taking away an easy pass. Because of the way Carey played it, he wasn't able to make the immediate pass he wanted to make, which was a little hook around pass. Couldn't make it right away. Jack White gets over there, gets a steal, and then at this point, that was it. It was fouling from here on out, and Duke ended up pulling off the win. But the whole video really just to say Duke did something that I think a lot of teams want to do at high school level, college, a little in that NBA, but not as much, and that is neutralize a post player. I don't know if I've seen that many teams do as good of a job as a unit, not just a couple guys, but as a unit, neutralizing a post player as dominant as Azubuike is. And it was from tip to the end of the game, they were sending pressure at him and all of the bigs every time they caught it on the block. There was not going to be any one-on-one post play at all. And that's a credit to Coach K, that's a credit to Duke, but it's something that is not that easy to replicate. It takes time, it takes a bunch of practice to actually get good at, to have your guys rotating, and to actually convince your guards to believe that they're capable of fighting around to front and that they don't have to just give up easy points in the paint. So this was one game that was a great start to the season. Obviously, both teams I thought played decent. Kansas's turnovers killed them. But if Duke's able to have this type of defensive energy and live off this type of defense, this is a Final Four team, no question.